So again, once again, good morning to all of you. Those who
Good
are here,
morning.
we are
It
happy
is
to welcome you here at the UISG, and welcome also to those who are connected online with us. Enrolled, many are enrolled to this course workshop, but perhaps during to the time zone prevents full participation. But I remind you that this workshop is going to be recorded and published both on MMI, who is the main partner of this formation, as well as the UISG channel. I would like you today to welcome all of you, but a very special way also, Terry Bonaventure, responsible for communication of the Synod of Bishops. So, welcome and thank you for your participation as a communication team. We are very, very happy to see you here with us. Uh, now I'm going to give the floor to Sister Alessandra Girard of the Sisters of the Sacred Heart. And she is going to be our moderator. And she's also a member of the board of MMI. Thank you, Sister Alessandra, and to you the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. I will speak Spanish. It is not my language, but I will do my best. Welcome. Welcome to you all. Welcome here and online. Today we will have a day very full. We will address the theme of storytelling in the church, and Pietro Rossini will present this day. Today we gather to do something that is very concrete and human. We want to tell stories with videos, and we do have a plan for the day. I know that you want to know when we have our break. The break is at 10:30, and for the rest, trust us, it is going to be good. We have this formation today organized by MMI in cooperation with UISG and USG. Why stories? Stories are important because they help us remember, they help us follow a thread, they help us enter into what the others are saying, and stories have the power of touching our hearts. So we do hope that this formation can help spread love of Christ in the world through data of life. And for this day, Pietro will help us. Sorry, I'm moving around. He will help us discover how we can improve in this sense. It is his work every day. I could tell a story about Pietro, but I do not have my formation yet, so I will be very simple. He is a missionary. His missionary path started when he was 18 years old in Salerno in Italy. He studied philosophy in Cana, and he was sent to Mexico. He speaks very well Spanish. He had his novitiate there in 2015. He had the first profession, and then he studied theology in Parma in Italy, and afterwards he continued in the United States with a master in journalism in the Boston University. At the moment, he is part of Miss Missionette, the group of communication of the missionaries of Javier, and he is in charge of imagining stories, producing them, and directing them with different reports to shape life, to shape challenges, and to shape beauty of life with a special attention to the dialogue, and in particular to interreligious dialogue and human fraternity, and to different cultural contexts in which missionaries work and live. At the end of the day, the life of Pietro is the life of a person who understood that mission shall be explained to open new journeys, to reduce distances. Pietro, the floor is yours. Thank you very much. Sorry, Christina has the prayer first.
A very brief prayer to begin the day. We're going to be doing in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. It would be enough to recognize in every face yours in order to understand your words. What you do to others, you are doing it also to me. And it would be peace everywhere. And only love would be everywhere. And it would be true. All caress. Each word would be true. It would be enough to recognize in every face your own, mine, my God. Pietro, the floor is yours. Thank you. Let me prepare the slides. So, first of all, good morning to all of you. Thank you for coming here to participating in this formation. I would like to introduce to you the program of the day. So we are aware of what we're about to do. So this morning is divided into two parts. In the first part, we're going to talk about this very strange word, which is storytelling. Storytelling that we will discover together is at the basis of the telling of any story through whatever means we are producing it. So this is the first part. After the break, there's going to be a second part. We will put into practice storytelling into the video. So how to tell in effective ways in the visual field using a visual language. After lunch, we're going to come back here. And also those who are following us online, we're going to have very hands-on workshop activities to put into practice what we have learned in the morning. This is more or less the program of the day. As Alessandra was saying in the presentation, I mainly produce video documentaries, and I thought of to begin today's meeting presenting the last episode of the documentary done in Taiwan on religious freedom. It's been 5 episodes. We're going to see the last one, which is the one more because we're going to need it also to go back to some elements that we're going to be using in the storytelling. I'm going to show has been translated into 6 languages. I don't know if online I've given all the links in the different languages, so we're going to see the language translated into Italian. I don't know if he's asking to show the video, please. A mosaic of religions. The people have the right to religious freedom. Production of Missionet, an initiative of the Severian missionaries with the support of the the Embassy of the Holy See of Taiwan. The right of religious freedom. Individuals the right to hold to religious beliefs and practice them freely, to change their religion or to profess none at all. In the heart of Asia, among temples and silent churches, intertwine are stories of faith, of search, and hope. Taiwan is a spiritual mosaic, a living workshop of diversity and religious freedom. Here, there's Buddhism, Taoism, Christianity, and Islam, Confucianism, and the new ways to look for the truth. But how do you truly live this diversity? In Taiwan has an environment that allows living together of different religion. Japanese once told me, Taiwan is a museum of religion. The entire museum project comes from the spiritual practice of the master. He retreated in a small cave, he fasted and lived in silence. In the most austere phase of his life, he carried out that life is not only his, but it is in communion with all other lives. This spiritual intuition is at the base of the museum, understood the concept of community of life. It observed that in Taiwan, emerging different faiths, and that perhaps they created confusion. The master thought that religion had to purify the heart, thus decided to collect the faith the most contributed to humanity, to show them together. Thus, people can get to know and choose freely. At the level of the Bishops' Conference, we take care of dialogue with different religions, trying to find ways of collaboration. The main approach now is based on friendship. It's been time that I noticed that in Taiwan, among religions, there's a great tolerance. This is the first point. The second point has to do with how to get to know one another in this environment of tolerance. Therefore, what can we do together? It's what we have been working on very slowly in this process. We have also broad action space, but we not be in a hurry or expect immediate results. However, in the respect and mutual esteem, every once in a while we organize activities or we take advantage of the opportunity to invite others to visit others' churches and temples. This climate of friendship is natural among us, and we are very happy about it. Thanks to this collaboration, we created also summer camps on religion and peace involving youngsters and also less young people, 3 or 4 days of living together. So we discovered how religions had to be in dialogue, reflecting also on the historical differences. And it's overcome the fear of interreligious dialogue. That's the first concern of many is if I participate in dialogue and betraying my God or my religion? That's the question one asks. It's the first thing that has to be addressed. We need to understand who our God is and how we relate with him to understand whether we are faithful and who are the others. Are they messengers of God or are they against him? Clearly, if they were against him, we should not have a dialogue. But if we see friendly attitudes, let's remember the words of Jesus that they be one. So we understand that God is love, and where there's love, God is there. As for other religion, we thank also the Vatican and is Vatican Council for Interreligious Dialogue, which is quite active. 3 or 4 years ago, they started a dialogue with Taiwan's Buddhism. They organize international conferences also with Taoism. We, as Diocese of Taipei, we have supported actively these initiatives. So we built great relationship with Buddhist, Taoist, and also popular religions. In the last years, we also with Muslim, we have good relationships. Every year during the Ramadan, the Vatican sends a letter that we translate in Chinese that then we bring to the mosque in order to continue our dialogue with Muslims. Muslims invite us also to share the meal of iftar after each day of Ramadan. The relationship is quite good. Recently, we also founded an association for religious peace. Throughout Taiwan, we have connected more than 20 different religions, including Yiguandao, Tamdichao, and Tianzhichao. 20 religions united have been chosen as president. Every year, we organize 2 or 3 meetings among representatives of the different religions. We discuss social topics and how to promote progress in society. I coordinate these groups, and Catholicism is seen as the older brother. We're all willing to collaborate with us and to follow our guide. Therefore, we have a harmonious relationship with all religions. Religion in Taiwan is free, and there are no specific interference. However, we would like to defend this freedom in order to be safeguarded the right of each and everyone to profess freely one's own religious. In Taiwan, it's not difficult to meet a Catholic procession, a Muslim iftar, or a religious event on the streets or on a public square. This is a sign of a freedom of expression that is lacking in many Western democracies. In Taiwan. One lay prevails on and it refutes it to the public life. Each one can manifest also with symbols and practices one's own faith and religious belonging. A brother invited us here. This is my first time in a Buddhist temple. We have made the experience of Zen meditation that, after all, is similar to spirituality in our church. The inner collection, stopping, reflecting on oneself, and trying to find a way to improve our heart. We have listened to the monks recite the sutra in repeated and continuous way to reach inner peace and to address this energy to those who need blessings. This experience helps to solve misunderstanding in welcoming differences and to look for the truth together. Among Buddhists, there are different practices. As well, also in the Catholic Church, there are different paths of spirituality. In the Catholic Church, we can learn a lot from this Zen meditation. We can adopt Sessa's path to free yourselves to attachment to this world and go back to the heart, to understand what we're truly following from the depth, and not to be pushed by external things, but rather to look for unity among heaven, God, and people. Follow Jesus' path. Information, it's easy to be distracted by external things, emotions, the character of the other. Interpersonal relationship all can lead to friction, but each experience teaches us something. And we learn that before every relationship, we need to open our mind, our gaze, so our heart is no longer be struck negative by the things. We go back to simplicity and inner peace. The master in his conferences said, we have just one planet. All religions live together on the planet Earth. Without peace among religions, there is no peace in the world. This is why we need to promote dialogue. If we truly believe in these values, therefore there will be no longer conflicts among faiths. The religious freedom guaranteed by Tanzania's constitution is what makes all this possible. Well, so let us go straight to the slides. So, let us start from this question. We have watched this piece of a documentary. It's just the last of the episode that we have done. So, what image of mission does it convey? What is the message conveyed by this short video you have just watched? Freely, also from home, from online, you can write on the chat and it will be read to me. So, what is conveyed? Oh, you can also raise your hands here in the hall. I think we are enough. I think we can take the floor. There are mission going forth, plurality, dialogue. So, church going forth, dialogue, plurality. Oh, what about here in the room? Somebody else? Dialogue, encounter, enculturation, friendship, mutual welcoming, wonderful, inclusion, tolerance, openness, unity. Well, as you can see, the message is good, has been conveyed in the different ways in which you have replied, this was exactly the message that we want to convey. How did we express this message? We did not tell them, Taiwan shows unity among religions, there's dialogue. We did not just say this, right? We have shown it. We showed it. The procession, the palms in the streets with the lady who's pushing the trolley, Muslim iftar among the park of Vida Bay. These religious people from different religions who talk to one another and they express their experience. The seminarian who attends Zen meditation. I mean, these are all experiences that we have shown through the visual images, through the documentary, which is not the only way that can be also represented visually, but that have expressed all that you have just said, all these reactions. So, as you can see, the message has been conveyed, but the communication has not been direct, meaning of wanting to convey that message. It's been through some stories, some images. It's been through some concrete experiences. And this is why today we are talking about storytelling. What is this big word? Welcome. We say it in English because it sounds better, because in Italian it would be the ability to tell stories, apart from the fact that it's too long, but we prefer storytelling. We like it. It's a cooler word. What is storytelling all about? It's the ability to tell stories, but a question. Why is it important to tell stories? So, you know what makes a difference when there's been the evolutionary theory, the Homo sapiens became Homo sapiens sapiens. Do you know what made this passage occur between Homo sapiens and Homo sapiens sapiens, who was us today? What's been the event, according to you? Do you know what the event has been in this evolution? Somebody online is able to understand language? Not really. No, but interesting. Yes, interesting answer. When we went from Homo sapiens to Homo sapiens sapiens, they're saying things, right? They represented something specific. Graphites. Yes, they represented something that before man did not do. The burial of the dead. The burial of the dead. When we bury a dead person, that in the prehistory was not something that they did. They did not. If the dead person stayed at home, it conveyed some diseases and everybody else was going to die. So they started to bury the dead. We started burying the dead because we realized that we were facing a mystery. There was something in this event of death that we were unable to understand, that it deserved a certain attitude. And this is where the telling stories began. The storytelling was in front of the mystery of death. And what's after death? What is the meaning of everything if everything ends? All these questions has pushed human beings to tell stories, to start with traditions, to create some cultural elements that have given dignity to entire peoples. Let us think about the Bible texts, especially of the Old Testament. They are rereading of peoples to explain a tragic event or of success that in a theological way. Why am I saying this? Because the stories make us who we are today, also as far as the evolution is concerned. Without the storytelling today, we would not be here. And this is something paramount, fundamental here. We're not simply organizing a workshop on techniques and to rather understand that this belongs to us as humanity. The fact that we're human beings, the storytelling is part of us as human beings. And so why is it important? First of all, as we said, it what distinguishes us from all other living beings. For example, an animal who sees another animal die, as of an instinct goes close to the animal, but then leaves and goes along, right? He does not create a ritual or around the death and to ask why. Okay, thank you. Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Gianluca offers a great service always. It's what distinguishes us from animals and from other human living beings, actually, is now that we talk about artificial intelligence, it what distinguishes us from machines. This ability of having empathy. Machines today have come to a very high level also of managing of information to such a point that they can mimic emotions, human feelings. They can understand what you're feeling from your tone of your voice, by the way you write, and it's always more common to turn to artificial intelligence to talk to virtual friends and virtual relationships and even virtual psychotherapy. But all this does not tell that the machine feels empathy. Empathy, it is an ability very specific of human beings, and it what connects us to a level of emotions and feelings. And I highlight this aspect because we will see this in storytelling. There's not a good story if it does not imply the emotional aspect. There cannot be a good storytelling if we don't have this aspect, because it's there where we connect. When we think or ask questions, I think you're coming here knowing a little bit of this storytelling. When you think about the audience who you are addressing, how can I convey this message to my audience? These are the questions you're asking yourself. This is the point where you connect yourself. It just not only have to do with what interests or the things that the audience likes to listen to or the language used by the audience. It's also from the emotional way how I convey, how I'm connect with this audience. Then the stories provide hope. When I read a story and I listen to a story, I watch a story because it helps me take a step forward. Going back to the example of death, it gives me hope that there is something after life after death in the Christian religion, or I'm incarnated in something new in the other religions. It gives to me that hope of living my today, but I know that there's something more. These stories that I'm connected to with empathy, but they need to provide a perspective for me. If the story just has to do with somebody else with whom I cannot connect to, this does not communicate much. It has to be something that then becomes meaningful for me. The example of the documentary before, the story is distant from us. It's an island in the ocean, in Asia, but the value of interreligious dialogue, it's something that we can also live, something that gives us hope, also to us here in Italy or in other parts of the world, wherever you are following us from. And life. The story give meaning. They give meaning to things. They give a name. They give a name to the events. They give a name to situations. They give them truly a meaning. And this is a reason why we look for them. We like stories, not only because we are made up of stories and we have seen this is part of our evolution, but it's also something that we need because without meaning, we do not live. Without giving a meaning to things, we will not move forward. And we are in a religious environment, so let's look at our master, a great storyteller, Jesus. Jesus of Nazareth is a great storyteller. And I can give many examples. I will start from this one that we all know. Remember the story of the Good Samaritan? I think that also all of us know, all of us know about the story of the Good Samaritan, right? But I don't think you remember how the story begins before telling the story. What occurs? Someone remembers this? Also from home. What happens before the story of the Good Samaritan? What occurs? Yes, there is a master of the law who goes to Jesus, the gospel says, to put him to not good intentions, to put him to the test. And he asks this question: what is the highest commandment? Love God all with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. And the other man adds, and who is my neighbor? And who is my neighbor? It comes out of this question. At the end of the story, Jesus turns the question upside down and he says, and he asks the question, look, which of these three do you think is your neighbor? Jesus tells us also the way in which Christians should act. Jesus could very easily argue, discuss. He would say, he could start talking with this master of the law, expert in the law, asking for some reasons why he had to be the neighbor of somebody else. He could also do any other thing as far as the communication is concerned. Instead, he shows storytelling. There's a reason why he did this, and it's not the only example. All the gospel is filled with parables. What are parables? They're stories. A parable is they're exaggerated stories that have a message of truth. Jesus never discussed or argued. He told stories. And this is a choice, a fundamental communication choice. Because sometimes when we want to communicate our mission, the charism of our congregation, the activities we carry out, the social projects we are in charge of, usually we think about communication strategies and how to tell about that specific project. But we must not forget that the first and true story is us. We are the first story, because also, as far as our faith and the gospel is not a theory. It's not a doctrine. The gospel is not a law to follow. The gospel is a life that it's expressed through the stories of each one of us. And this is the reason why the story par excellence is our witness. Our witness becomes the best way to proclaim the gospel, because it's something that touches human beings. It's not something that has to do with an ideology in which to believe in. It transforms life. So let us look for some aspects for have an effective story. First of all, clearly, we need to have protagonists. A story without protagonists that cannot exist. There must also be a conflict. Then we will talk into more in detail. The conflict, meaning, what is the conflict? It's not that there's a war in every story we tell. No, but the conflict is when in the story something occurs that changes the story. The plot twist, you would call it in English. In fact, the successful stories, the more memorable television series that are most followed, the most popular ones, they have more plot twists inside the story. Path, there has to be an evolution inside the story. We cannot just stay in a stagnant situation. It needs this path and clearly a message, something that is memorable at the end of the story. Important element that I have already mentioned before when I spoke about empathy. When we tell stories, often we do it with our head, especially us Westerners. I don't know where you're following us from, but the Western world is a very rational world. We are very much accustomed to give reasons, discussing, and we use our head, which is good. We're very rational, but we use very little our heart, our feelings. And this is a communication mistake because it's there where we connect. We connect to the feelings. So emotions are those things that make us remember the story. Also, looking at this man who's crying, and I just put this slide, he's not crying in real life, but you cannot be indifferent in looking at this picture of him. You're listening to me, but of course, we're sorry. We're connecting. And it's what you're going to remember of this story is the emotional aspect that we underestimate a lot. And there are some key emotions that must not always be present at the same time, but we cannot do without at least one of these emotions inside the stories. These are the emotions that psychologists, according to which human beings communicate. When we talk also as Christians of manifesting our vulnerability, because it's through our vulnerability we have the encounter with God and we can experience love. This is what we say. We talk about these emotions. The surprise, the element of surprise. Oh, this was so unexpected. Within the story, there's this wow moment. Oh, wow, unexpected. When there is, this is the hope, and we mentioned it before. We are bored of the stories reading the news or that we read, yes, because journalism has been distanced itself from telling stories for human beings to give hope, and it's become rather to inform. Pure passive information, and clearly, as our wise Africans said, more it's gives more noisy the tree that falls rather than the growing woods. And this is a big difference. What makes the news is not what we're looking for, which is the growing trees, a lot of trees growing. The disaster makes the news. The 3 trains in Spain, the accident of the 3 trains have been derailed in Spain. That makes the news. But we're always looking for hope. But we pray for peace. We pray for the end of conflicts in the world. We suffer for those who are suffering in wars, genocides, because we want something different. So hope. Fear is another fundamental emotion. There is no human being who does not feel fear. We often hide our fears, but to manifest unzoned fears, also when you provide your witness, allows the listener to connect to you. I've been there also. This is the reaction that the other person has. Oh, you see, also a sister, also a priest, also a missionary lives this, undergoes this, and this opens up your audience to welcome what you are conveying as a message, your vulnerability, paradoxically, and also joy. We are made for joy, to be joyful. So, in our narration, to include a positive element that leaves this joyful element to it is very important. Two mistakes to avoid in our storytelling if emotions are missing. What I mentioned before, the emotions, how boring. It would be something boring. Why are we bored? Not because we're not interested on the topic. We are bored because it does not tell us anything as far as our heart is concerned, as far as our emotions are involved. And the other is a confused message when you're communicating and you yourself don't know exactly what you want to convey, what you want to communicate. When you're confused, clearly there's no impact. This is true for you, but as well for your audience. Some practical advice. Always start from a true experience. In Evangelii Gaudium, Pope Francis wrote, the true rule, reality is higher than the idea. Remember, this can be applied to everything and also to storytelling, meaning we are not proposing ideologies. I repeat myself, the gospel, when it's communicated, it starts from the witness of life. So let's start off from a real experience, not from the idea, this is how it should be, or this is what I need to reach. Let's start from life with all the contradictions that life have. Simple language. If I have shown to you that documentary in the original language, Chinese, I think I don't see any Chinese among you, but I don't think anyone would have understood anything. And this does not only occur when we don't speak a language which is not our mother tongue, sometimes also in Italian or in English or French, Spanish, or your languages, we use some terms that are jurgle elements. You know that there's ecclesialism. I apologize, it's difficult with ecclesial language. And this means there are those words that we are the only ones to understand it, us members of the church. And it's not easily communicatable. I'm going to tell you a very short story about this. When I studied in Boston, I was with friends coming from different countries and all different religions. Once, with some friends, I entered the church, in our church, and there was the holy, very holy exposed, and my friends were Muslims, Hindus, and atheists. And it was like opening my eyes because they started asking me questions. What's that? It seems easy, huh? The question. It seems an easy question. If I have to explain it to my catechism companion and we have the same background, easy to answer. Oh, the very holy Jesus. But tell somebody, to an Hindu, to Muslims, how to explain it to them, and people who have never seen anything like it. Where do you start from? The Last Supper? What is the Last Supper? You understand what I mean? A very trivial example, very straightforward example, something that we live as Christian, which is a given for us, but you have to explain to somebody who doesn't have the same background. And I see in the confessional, there is a priest who is confessing, Then he says, "What's that? Why did he enter into that closet?" That was a question. Why did the person enter into that closet? Well, people come to talk and talk about one's own sins. Oh, like in the movie The Exorcist. Exactly. You see, movie language is quite communicative. But there's an idea behind the idea of the confession that a person might have is the one that they've seen in the movie, who watched it in the movie. Then try to explain the meaning of all this. Just to say, we don't always talk the same language, use the same language, and a good communicator does not speak his own language, but he tries to understand the language of the other and express what he wants to say in the language of the other, involving the senses. Before we talked about emotions, it's not enough. The true experience is communicated through the senses, our eyes, our tact, our taste, our ears, our hearing. If a beautiful book, it's also a book that describes the taste and the smell of the place, and you are there because it conveys it. Also in the movie, that makes you see them. It's just showing them. And here I go to a fundamental rule of communication that we'll refer to later. I'm going to say it in English.
Show me, don't tell me. Esatto, brava traduttrice.
Show it to me. Don't tell me. Show me, don't tell me. That's a fundamental rule. You want to convey or communicate a message. Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Show it to me. And last, the message must be memorable. What do I mean by memorable? This is memorable. If we come out of here today, after this day, with this sentence, and it's been successful, this formation has been successful. Remember this. People do not remember what you said and what you did, but the way that you have made them felt. Communication comes at this level right here. All that you will remember is through this. If in communication I made the other person feel neglected or not understood or not identified with the protagonist of the story, the result is that this person will feel abandoned. Therefore, that he will not like that movie, he will not like the book completely, or he will not finish reading the book, and he will definitely not suggest somebody else to read it. Instead, in that story, I felt myself identified. Oh, this thing happened also to me. I felt understood in my fears, in my hopes, in my joys, and the feelings that we mentioned before. Oh, I'm going to suggest it to somebody else. I watched the movie until the end. I read it until the end. I read the story until the end. Remember this. People do not remember what you said, but the way you have the things have been felt. I would say there's more. There are 5 minutes to the break, and the break is sacred. Absolutely. We organize our program of today based on our breaks. All right. First the breaks and then the rest. So now in these 5 minutes, are there comments or questions on this first part? Something you would like to comment or questions? Let's take these 5 minutes. Also, from those following us online, are there some questions or some comments? Can I say personally?
When you mentioned that the break is important. I think that you got it all.
Well, that's important too. It's also something that might not have been clear or something that you disagree about. I mean, feel free. Feel free to perhaps something you hadn't thought about before. This dynamic of reason and emotions. Did you expect, when talking about storytelling, did you expect to address this emotional aspect? This is a question I'm asking you. Did you expect this? Well, this is something that you had considered before coming to this workshop. You more or less think of what's going to be addressed. Did you expect this emotional aspect, how the importance of emotion in the storytelling? No? Yes? Some are nodding. Yes? There is a question, a comment.
For me, it was good to stress that Jesus doesn't suggest themes. He explains
Emotions are at the basis.
things through
Yes,
storytelling.
fundamental. This is fundamental, especially in our Western context. We need to remember this. We give too much for granted. We are based on philosopher Kant, reason, very pragmatic, concrete. Therefore, cause and effect, all this reasoning of that. If you think about it, also as far as Christians, it doesn't work, because at Christendom we talk about mystery, the mystery, and explain the mystery. A mystery is a mystery. How can you explain rationally a mystery? You can experience it, you can live it, these feelings. Always the symbolism, perhaps, going back to this. Comments?
I would like to understand how we can share the charism, starting with storytelling or more theoretical aspects. And then another comment from a French sister. How can we help each other to do it? How can we identify what we can tell?
Well, today we will work on this also during our workshops. It's going to be a very interesting dynamic. This is just the first part. Now, before going to the video, there's another part that allows us to enter into identify what is the story, what is the message, and how to communicate, what is a story to communicate. I think that we are, it's break time. Oh, no, we still have some time. Hold on a minute. We still have some time, please. Microphone, please. Microphone. Well, probably this is something that we'll explore later on. The tool used for the storytelling is a documentary. Perhaps the variable is time. And it's also interesting to think, it's challenging to have the emotional aspect and the cultural aspect, that it's not so easy. It's true that emotion is a universal aspect, but some elements are connected also to the cultural aspect and the different contexts. So how challenging it can be, a short video, a storytelling that are so complex and that's so united. I was thinking about this. I don't know. I think that you're going to be addressing this. Thank you. Thank you. It's more a reflection. I was thinking how the collective image out of what you have highlighted, perhaps through your talking with your friends when they refer to a movie, because often movies and videos are part of the culture and give us something that is shared. Before catechism, we have thought about of Dante's, because that was the collective image. So I was wondering how this collective imagination at the end of the day has an impact. Also, if you would insert it in the as a further element to create an effective story, or you would insert it in the dimension of conflict, that is something needs to be addressed as such.
Thank you. Listening to you on storytelling and all you have shared, evoking emotions, it just brings me back to my youthful days as a child, being an African. Most of the values that were being transmitted to us by our parents were through storytellings. So you have just like connected me to my youthful days. If you are like to be told that you'll be a good lady tomorrow, a good woman, a hardworking woman, or a woman who is respectful, how to take care of your husband or your children, all those messages were being conveyed through stories. There are many stories. If I start telling them to you, and it was often said when we are relaxed around the fireside, when everybody is there and we just relax. And very important messages were conveyed through those stories. I mean, you've connected me to my past. Thank you so much.
That's beautiful, sister, what you said, because this is very true, and I'm very glad that you said that. Was not me, because of course, speaking about another culture that is different. For example, I mean, in Italy we are not used to tell story under the fire, but I have, for example, my niece, my nephew, they tell story. My sister and my brother-in-law, they tell story to them before going to bed. So we still have some of these traditions. But in some cultures, like yours, stories are even more rooted to tell like the future, or what a woman should be, what a man should be, and so on, and also the tradition of the local people. So it's very amazing, because this explains what I said in the beginning. Everybody, like, we are made of stories, no? Without stories, even the culture, there is no culture without stories. E lo dico anche in italiano, qui ci troviamo in una città come Roma.
We are in Italy, in Rome. I came here walking, and I was thinking about this. The story represented by Rome is so visible. It's a museum. It's a museum. I entered into a church. How often have I visited Rome? So many times, and every time you can discover a corner, a piece of history you have never seen. I entered into St. Mary Magdalene foot in a church when I walked inside. It's so interesting. I mean, every corner. Also, this is storytelling. The monuments, ancient Romans knew about this. Castel Sant'Angelo, St. Peter's Square. I mean, this is storytelling. This is a way of giving an image also of a story that has been and that it is now art. As you see, it is not something rational. It is not that we have put some posters in Rome writing a treaty of history. We have it. We just walk around Rome and you see it. The break? I think the break now.
We have questions online, but we can continue with them later on. So half an hour at 5 past, we will resume. 11.
sì. Mi hanno dato delle regole con come muovermi qua, perché sennò
They
dopo
have given me some rules on how to move.
e dopo le feste si ingrassa.
And of course, you gain weight after uh,
E a chi è in linea,
Christmas. Welcome back to all of you.
iniziamo dalle domande.
Okay, so let
Domande
us
e commenti, poi
begin with the questions and comments. We're still in the first part.
devo finirvi di dire
I still have to finish telling you some things. Oh, let's start by reading the online questions that you have written on the chat.
Yes, we have the questions, in particular, two questions. Sisters say that what they do is normal and they do not know how to help sisters to bear witness without having the feeling of being on the first.
Okay, let's answer one at a time. Yes, because it's interesting. As communicators,
Well, we know that
religious
we,
congregations, we go
when we
to
go
a
to
brother or
sisters
sister
and brothers
and we
and we
tell them,
say,
I would
I
like to
want
interview
to
you. There might be the reaction of
talk
saying,
with you.
I'm nothing to
Sometimes they say, I
say,
do
or
not
I'm
have
ashamed, I'm
something to
shy,
say.
I don't want to be in
I
front
do
of the
not want to be
camera,
in
I
front
don't
of
know
a
what to
camera.
say.
I do not
So
know
it
what to
is a very
say. It is a
important
very
question
important
because it's a very
question, a
practical question.
practical
For
question.
example,
For example,
lately
I
I
was
went to
in
Africa,
Sierra Leone in Africa
for
recently, and
to shoot
a
a
brother
documentary. A brother who
who
was the
was
only
the
one from
only
there, from
from
Sierra
Sierra
Leone.
Leone.
So we cannot do this on Sierra Leone. There is someone without interviewing him. And I told him, I'm sorry, we have an issue for the translation. Can you hear the translation in English? Okay, we have two translations in English. Okay, sorry. Yeah, I think we have a mix-up the channels. Okay, so I asked this brother, when can I interview you? The first day. Oh, I have a sore throat. That was his answer. Another day goes by. Oh, I'm not good. Luckily, I spent 3 weeks there, and he kept on having a throat ache. Before leaving, he coughed the day before I left. And so I said, come on, can I? Okay. Then he was convinced that it was not a sore throat. But, I mean, we react differently in front of the camera. It's like to explaining to the brother or sister, because we are telling a story about our congregation, that it's needed to convey a message and to bring our values outside our circle. The witness is not to take and he can just want to, apart from what he wants to convey, something he believes in. If we are consecrated, it's because we are believers, true believers. So to explain the value of that the witness can provide. Then there was another question, I think. Yes. Oh, yes, because violent movies. Why are they so popular? That's the question. Yeah. As I said before, it's not only violent movies, but also the news of violence. Paradoxically, these are things that we avoid. We are bored to listen to, but they're things that we also look for. Because it's part of those emotions, human emotions that we said before, fear. For example, the horror movies are based on this element of fear. Why do you watch horror movies? Not because you have a pathology, because you like seeing people suffer. No, well, it might be the case. I mean, but actually, if you don't have this pathology, you watch it because that emotion of fear, being afraid, triggers something in you that make things come out in you that differently would not come out. It's that feeling, let's say, of freedom among inverted commas, you like it. And we look for it. Also, the action, violence, it's like seeing the adrenaline that you would like to feel on your everyday life represented through a movie. And in some way, this makes you experience it. Because this is an important element. The story is not a lesson. The story makes you enter and have the experience of the message he wants to convey. So you experience in some way, also by watching and listening, that horror experience, the dramatic experience of comedy that you have in front of you. This allows you to have this experience for what we said before of the emotional aspect that is involved. Another question?
We shall express words in languages that are not ours sometimes. How can we make it using emotions?
Well, that of language is a fundamental aspect. Clearly, I cannot shoot a documentary. The one of Taiwan, I had to refer to a person who accompanied me as a translator from Mandarin to English, and I was able to interview people who were speaking a language that I did not know, I didn't study. Language is fundamental. The language skill is at the basis of any type of communication. But then you just don't only communicate with words, so the attention is also nonverbal language, body language, meaning face expressions, the way we pose ourselves. This is also another element, but clearly I cannot tell the story of someone of whom I do not understand the language, because I won't be able to translate in understandable way. So, the questions from home. Are there any questions remote? Is there somebody in the room? Somebody else in the room? I was struck by the sense of being abandoned. In fact, both on social as well, even more so in person, when you tell or they ask you to give a witness, or also informally, you meet someone and for example, they asked me, how come you became a nun? And well, I was thinking about it, and it depends on how long you talk, because today the threshold of attention is very low. Also, I myself have a very low attention threshold. So how also the duration has an impact on the message you want to convey, together with emotions as well. Thank you, thank you. Thank you for the question. Oh, it's very topical, the question, definitely. I will answer with the words, no, I'm not going to quote him completely, but the concept is there. James Cameron, the director of Avatar, a beautiful movie. It lasts 3 hours and a half, every episode of Avatar. It's longer than The Lord of the Rings. And people watch it. Yeah, they go to the movies. It's the same people who are tired after 1-minute reels on Instagram. Yes, but James Cameron says it's the same people who spends the weekends watching the 40 minutes episodes one after the other. It's been binge watching on Netflix of a series that you like. And then you spend like 2 hours and a half continuously watching the entire series in an afternoon. I mean, this is important to know, because on the one hand, we say we need to create quick content, because if not, they're not going to follow us. On the other hand, I said, I don't want to belittle the work that is done well to just summarize it 1-minute reel on Instagram. So how can we approach this? One thing is, and we will see this, what do I want to communicate? To whom? And where I want to communicate it. So if I'm thinking about communicating to young people, on a reel on Instagram, of course, I need to stick maximum, and even too much is 3 minutes, 1 minute and a half. If I want to present a documentary that I'm going to present to schools or institutions where I will go more in depth, let's say 10 minutes per episode is good. One can watch it. One watches the episode until the end. Instead, if I want to make a movie on my congregation of 1 hour and a half or 45 minutes, or participate at a film festival, of course, that's the duration. What's important is to consider some elements that I'm going to introduce to you now that keep the attention on that product. It's not that people can watch Avatar for 3 hours and a half just because it's a fashion. It's because, in fact, in the movie, there's something that keeps you there for 3 hours and a half. Or The Lord of Rings, that is the mostly watched series in the world, seen more than once. And there must be a reason, because you're there. There's been also some organized marathons, 9 hours long in a row, watching The Lord of Rings. And they're the same people who are tired when they are watching a longer video. I mean, there must be something as far as communication is concerned in the movie that keeps your attention for 3 hours or more. Any other question? I mean, we're going to see many things now. All right. So, okay. Thank you. So, this is going to be our motto, our mantra, that is going to continuously be seen. It's today's focus point. Why is there the small screen? Something before going to the second part. Sometimes we also spoke about giving our own witness, and we can do this in different ways. You go to a school and you do this physically. You tell your story, or you, through articles, videos, or through a podcast, means can change, but the substance is the same. A distinction we need to make is the following. To tell one's own story or give one's own witness is not to no, it's not journaling. To tell one's own story is not journaling. The diary or journaling is a great means. I've been journaling ever since I was 18, but it's very useful for you, the person who is journaling, to write what your feelings or your experiences. The journaling, you do it for yourself. You write it for yourself. If I make you read my diary, you won't understand it because I'm writing my own language. It's my own comments, use things that only I can understand. Instead, when I tell about my story to someone to provide a witness or for any other communication, I do not start from myself. I do not use a communication language addressed to me. And I'm not writing for myself. I'm writing for another person. So, and here comes the first question. I need to tell a story. Where should I start? Big question. I remember a brother who was about to write his dissertation. And this is how I found him. He was in front of the computer. Imagine the scene. It was open, a file in front of him. He was trying to write, and he was just watching the screen without knowing what to do. It was incredible. This image stuck with me. And we have a sentence of our founder who looks at the cross, and he looked at me and I looked at him. He seems to be telling so many things, and I applied it, the same thing, to the computer. Right, you're saying, oh, I want to tell a beautiful story. Where should I begin? Let's try. Let's try. Let's try with you. Where would you begin? He's asking the question to you. Where do you begin?
storia, facciamo la vostra storia, no?
Let's say you want to tell a story. Where would you begin?
Messaggio, dice qualcuno.
Message, somebody says.
Quindi quello che ti concentri su quello che
So you're concentrated on what you would like to communicate.
a chi?
To whom?
Sì.
Yes,
Si parte
we start,
innanzitutto
first of all, from the other.
dall'audience.
Yeah, but
Chi
the
voglio
audience.
raccontare?
Who do I want to tell the story?
E poi mi chiedo,
Who do I want to tell the story to?
che cosa
And then I ask myself, what
trasmettere?
I want to tell. What do I want to convey? Because it's not the same thing to tell a story to some adolescents, adults, or elderly, or people who belong to our congregation, or people from other religions, or people who have grown in a European context, or others who have grown up in Africa or in Asia. It's not the same thing. And since
Adesso le storie che raccontiamo
the stories we tell
web,
end up on the web,
il nostro uditore
potentially our audience is the world. So we risk
dispersione, non si parla
a great dispersion. We don't start from this question because in our mind, we want to reach each and everyone.
raggiungere tutti vuol dire
Reach everyone means we are not reaching anyone because my language is not going to be focused.
e quindi non si
Therefore, I will not be concentrated on my
raggiungere quell'obiettivo.
in achieving that goal because I don't have a goal.
Dire voglio tutto
To say that I want to have everything
niente.
means I don't want to have
Sono
everything and nothing are synonyms.
quindi è importante
So it is important to be concentrated on
per quanto riguarda
where. And as for the structure, I will give to you this that you will, many of us know. This comes from the Anglo-Saxon journalism. It's quite simple, but in fact, it's very effective. And we don't think about this, but when we think about a story, the famous 5 Ws. Some of you, yes. So what are the 5 Ws in English? In English, it's in English. 5 Ws. What?
when, quando,
When?
where, dove,
Where?
why, perché,
Why?
who, chi,
And
in
who?
realtà se
And then in fact, we would have
how,
an H,
come.
how.
Sono 5V più
So they're
questi elementi
5 Ws plus an
non
H,
dovrebbero
how.
mai mancare in una
These
storia, proprio a livello
elements must
pratico.
always be present in a
Se una
story.
storia manca di
If
cosa,
a story is missing a what,
che mi stai raccontando?
what are you telling me?
Questa cosa,
Why did this happen? Who is involved? Where? But you didn't tell me what happened. Or
cioè se è una storia
when, if it's a story, and this is important, is this a criteria to distinguish fake news? Today, many things come on the web
che sono di 10 anni fa,
and they are 10 years old.
ma per esempio
The latest one is the one on
cotto che è
the
scoperto,
ham
classificato
classified as type 1 cancer food as tobacco. It's a research of 2015 that now is reproposed. So
il titolone
you receive the title, oh, ham identified as can be give you cancer. And then you read it's 2015, and then you read that based on the diet and so on and so forth. But the title is
bait click, no? Cioè,
bait clip.
ti metto quel titolo,
It's a bait clip. I'm going to put a title, and based on the views, I will profit.
quindi il quando è fondamentale.
So
Dove?
when, where did this happen?
Ambientata
It's set in this context, it's other one.
perché è quella più difficile.
Why is this the most difficult one?
Questa è l'unica delle 5
This is the why. It's the only one of the W's. The 5 W's might be missing. The why that thing occurred.
pensati fatti di cronaca.
Think about the news,
Treno,
the
Spagna.
the train derailed in Spain. Why? We don't know why. There's an investigation underway, so we still don't know why. The who corresponds the people, the protagonist, and something else that comes from journalistic world is this reversed pyramid. When I work on the story, first I have the 5 Ws that we have mentioned before, whatever order you like, but they have to all be there. Then there's a context. For example, if I'm going to tell you the story of the third train that derailed in Spain, I'm doing it in the 5 Ws. In the context, I'm going to put the previous episodes. Why am I telling you this story? The context is, why am I telling you this story? It would be nat graph. And then other information that I deem important. This is the typical Anglo-Saxon journalistic style, especially for storytelling of chronicles. For example, in the documentary you watched, I do not follow the rigid structure in this way, but the 5 Ws are there. When you work on storytelling, these 5 Ws, it's not that they are so well defined. You need to process them inside the key protagonists, the stories you collected, etc. But this gives us a structure. When we ask ourselves, I don't know where to start, at least we have a model in order to start doing something. This is the end of the first part of the presentation. And before going to the second part, which is going to be centered more on the video, I don't know whether there are some questions on this last part that we said of the 5 Ws. I think you heard about it before, the 5 Ws. I don't think it's something new. Let's look at the storytelling video. Let's put into practice what we have seen in this first hour in the visual language. There are 5 fundamental elements that we will see in this presentation that represent a good storytelling at a visual level. So the first one is the narration, the story. This means I need to create a story. And the story has always this a structure, the beginning, the body, and the conclusion. The beginning is one of the most important parts in the production of a video. It has to grasp your attention, the attention of the audience. In ancient, it's hook, right? The hook, the audience, the reader, the whatever type of audience, the listener with that story. You need to be hooked. Therefore, there has to be something that hooks you, that is also the emotional one that we said before. I need to start from something through which the person who is watching can identify and want to watch more. The body, allow me this. As I was preparing this slides, perhaps I was hungry. Think about a hamburger. Meaning a hamburger, you have the bread, the top and the bottom, then there's the meat, then the salad, and the seasoning. The body is the meat, right? If we make a video without the meat, it becomes a sandwich without ham. And we watch videos that are wonderful and then you said at the end, after watching it, you ask yourselves, I mean, it's well done. I mean, but you ask, what's the message? What do they want to convey? And at the end, you say, I mean, the substance, the body, the hamburger is missing. It represents the message, if you like, but it also represents what I want to communicate. The what. And then the conclusion has to be something, we're talking about a video, something memorable. I cannot end a video in a very generic way. I need to conclude it with something that people can bring back home. I mean, for example, in the documentary of Taiwan, there's a sentence of the nun on the harmony of religions. If religions are in harmony among one another, also the world will live peace. So, first, the storytelling, it has to have a logic according to the criteria I mentioned before, and then the characters, the protagonists. We enter into the live part of this. It is fundamental, and this is, I'm going to talk to you about documentaries, which is my visual language that I'm specialized in, but clearly other visual languages have their own criteria. How does this work? When I shoot a documentary, and the approach is the opposite than a fiction movie. When we work on a fiction movie, what do? We write the plot, we assign the different roles to the actors that will interpret the different roles. We make different shootings until it works well. Then we organize it all and we produce the movie. Instead, the documentary is completely the opposite. It's turned upside down. You make some field studies, for example. Taiwan, I had to get in touch with my brothers who were there, understand the story. I did not about this religious freedom. I did not go there with a message done. They are the ones who tell me some things. They give us some element, and I say, good. I mean, this might be the story. So let us start to get in touch with these characters, these people to interview, and then you go there. You go there and you start to interview them to collect material you need. Once you have done everything, you go back home and you write. Write what you have done the first thing in the movie. You do this at the end. You write, you put together the characters, the recorded material, and you make the story. We will see some other elements, but this is a little bit the procedure of when making a documentary. So the characters are fundamental in this. You need to choose them well, to choose some characters, some people who I can identify with emotionally, as values they convey, the level of life, emotions, all we said before. A goal. This is the third element. And something was mentioned before. So look here. We enter into a debate. Where's the sister? Where's sister? Okay. I will say this. Sometimes we find ourselves doing something where you interview, let's say 20 people, let's say 30 people. You don't need to use all the 30 interviews because you have interviewed 30 people. I mean, it's not because you use the person interview because you have to the goal is to tell the story. That's the purpose. If during that interview, this interview allows you to tell the story or add something new to the story you're telling, good. If that interview is simply repeating something that has already been said before, you will not use it. You just use one or the other. If there is a repetition, you don't have to please the people who are interviewed. This is true not only for the interviews. This is also true for the video material with video content. I have days of recording, not hours, days of recording. In Taiwan, what you have watched is like a tiny part of all the material I have. When you piece it together, you need to choose. You have to choose the best material that allows you to tell the story you set to tell. And write down this rule: use only the material that allows you to tell the story you want to tell. This is true also when you write an article. It's not that you write every paragraph you write has a meaning. Each paragraph, you write it because you needed to tell that story. If that paragraph, it does not have a why, eliminate it. If that paragraph, that image, if that interview does not help you to tell the story, take it out. You become redundant and your story is not effective. Another element, clarity. This is paramount. When we start telling the story, after having understood what our audience is, the question is, what do I really want to communicate? What is the story I truly want to communicate or to tell? And I go back to the example. In November, I visited Sierra Leone for another documentary, and I'm still working on it. Before going there, another country where I've never lived, I got in touch with our brothers there. I studied. I took some books on the Savarian there. I understand the story there in Sierra Leone. And the first question was that regarding education, our congregation is not in the schools in itself, does not work in the schools there. So instead, in Sierra Leone, we built a system of schools, and it's been a choice there to enter into the Muslim world. So I said, that's the story. That's it. I'm very happy, excited. I go there with the idea to interview teachers, volunteers who work in the schools, the fathers who manage the schools, the students. I arrive there. This was just one of the many stories. Walking on the streets, I enter into mosque and I try to interview someone there to give the cultural trait. And I found a youngster who defines himself as Christian and Muslim at the same time. And he says, I read the Bible. I'm a Methodist. I read the Bible every single day. But I found him in the mosque. And I said, what are you doing here? Oh, I also practice the 5 prayers a day. Today is Friday. And I said, oh, but then, so you're Christian and Muslim? Yes. And I realized that this was another story. It was not the only one. There were the Christmas, the ones were Christians and Muslims. I did not know it. I didn't know this before. One evening, I was in a pagan ritual where they're trying to look for the witch. And they says, oh, hi, Father. And I, the person that I'd seen in the parish, in the previous one, he was there. There was many women there, Christian and Muslims, that are waiting for the participating in a ritual, a witchcraft ritual. Yes, again, another topic. So all these stories, I did not know about them before going there. And perhaps my brothers, who I had questioned before, they give this for granted because they live there. An external eye sometimes sees more. So you need to go there. And this to say what? That the clear message, you just know it at the end. When you have all the material, we have all the interviews, when you have all that you have produced, and it's there where you decide what element, what once you want to give to this video. And spoiler for Sierra Leone, 5 episodes with 5 different topics about Sierra Leone. It was so rich. Another element that we have already addressed is emotion, the emotional aspect. That is not expressed in word. Also, in a written story, you do not write so Chiara or Claire was sad. You say Claire was crying. There was tears in her eyes. She was a steady glaze. Show me, don't tell me. And this is true for everything, also for the movies. Whatever they are, and we have seen this before, the most important ones, emotions are what make the story memorable. It's important to use emotions, emotional visual language, because what connects me, we have all have felt sad, wounded, we have all have felt hopeless or proud, we have all felt whatever feelings. We are human beings. We experience life this way. So when I see it on the other side, I identify, remember experience that I have had in the past. I'm talking about the Christmas that has nothing to do with me, with my life, but that experience of its simplicity, of this man is living this double belonging. Christian and Muslim surprises me, this element of surprise. It's something unexpected. And so I connect, I want to know, and this stays with me. Okay, this is something we're going to repeat over and over. This is our motto. We will find this always. People, do not remember what you said, but the way you made them felt, how they were felt. And this is also for the visual language videos. This part here is over. Now give you some time for questions, for comments, for things we have not said, and that instead you would like to know more about. This is the time to do so. So the floor is yours. And we do have time. I have a question.
I struggle sometimes when I have to choose how to cut, not only because I feel sad for the others, but also because I feel it is important and interesting. So how can we cut some parts? How can we choose the sections that we need to preserve among the material we have? You mentioned it already, but...
Oh, yes. It's not easy, but we need to have a clear goal. When I have a clear goal, the clear purpose, the message I want to communicate, the question I need to ask myself in facing this clip or this person, this interview is, this person, for what the person is telling me during this interview, is the person adding something new? And is it going in the direction of the story I want to tell or not? And there you choose whether to insert it or not. It's important to have a clear goal, because if not, one will get lost, and we want to put everything. And the video is no longer a documentary or a movie. It becomes just a patchwork of stuff. Meaning, as to do a documentary, it's not enough to shoot it and piece it together well. There needs to be a thread, a logic and you're the one who's going to the structure, the logic, the language, meaning I cannot put the interview. Let's give you a practical example. Sierra Leone, there have been 3 people from a parish where we're present who were interviewed. It was half an hour interview, and what they have said back does not have to do anything of these 5 episodes. Has nothing to do with the 5 episodes, so I'm not going to include it. It's not that you are being mean to the person, but in that the person has dedicated time. You listen to the person, but at the end of the day, it's not part of the story. Can you use this material in the future for some other stories? Yes, but not for that, the one that you're the storytelling, that specific storytelling. And this is true also with the sisters who's going to tell you, oh, you interview. Why did you just put another person? You didn't put me. And there's jealousy arises among them because I'm going to do something else with you, whatever. I meaning that for that specific story, well, that was not the place. I have a question on the clarity and simplicity in the way of talking based on the audience. And sometimes there are some people who are quite interesting, but I mean, they would not have a nice effect on the video, or they use a very difficult language. How can we help them to become, meaning if I explain, let's say to a sister, a very elderly sister who has a way of talking which is quite different, and I want to convey it to youngsters, how can I to bring this testimony to guide her in some way, a language which is different, that can be understood by the public? Thank you for the question. I like this. It occurs often, a technique. A possibility is to ask them to tell the story to you and tell it through images, videos, with a voiceover, meaning using narrating that tells the story. It is their story, but you translate it in the voiceover in a more accessible language to your audience. This is a technique that does work, and it can be very useful. In fact, I did this in this last episode you just watched. This has been another reason, not because the person was shy or he did not know how to speak in public, but this project has been funded partly by the Embassy of the Holy See of Taiwan. So clearly, when you receive a funding, there are some requirements you need to abide to. So I'm saying this and I will deny it. But in fact, this in a part that I had included in this episode, criticized the government in a recording. So I criticized the government, but I liked it because as a documentary, but not showing just part, but also the critical part, it has a greater weight. And the critic was on the fact of a law, a very concrete law that was mentioned that might compromise the religious freedom in the country. I had included this voiceover when I went to the embassy to show it. Everything beautiful, everybody was happy, but he says, "Oh, you need to cut this out," and I took it out, but I did not take it out. Meaning, I took out the fact that the bishop was saying it, and I put it in a sort of a voiceover. So the bishop is safeguarded because they cannot say that he said it, and I continue telling my story. It becomes a way, and I did not lose my funding, especially, which was important. Yes, this is the right way, also visually, to be able to do this. And yes, but it is possible, because in our congregations, many are the ones who do not want to talk, or they're shy, or they have but they have incredible stories to tell. So they don't want to tell it, so let us tell The important thing is to have access to that story, that at least you are told the story by that person, that you can translate into different ways. Another way, and this is, there's cartoons. There's some with it's just like some cartoons of the person. It's another language to experiment, but it allows you to without using the real person.
So we spoke about interviewing people, and so that they don't get offended, we just use particular testimonies for our documentary. But my question is, how can we identify prior the right persons for the interview in order to save time later, as well as I know it is not 100% plan or a strategy, but how could we identify the right people in advance, like prepare well before interviewing?
Italiano o inglese, come preferite? Faccio italiano e poi c'è la
Okay,
traduzione.
okay, there's a translation. So it is a wonderful question, and it's very important. It depends on the context, first of all. For example, when I went to Morocco for the documentary there, I went there 2 months ahead of time, contacting the brothers, asking them to describe the situation. Like just before, you have sort of like an idea, and then you have a little bit of an idea. And then I asked the father theirs to organize a rendezvous with the bishop, the imam, a visit to the mosque, etc. And we write down a plan, a calendar. When you go there, you know when you're going to meet the people. But with an open eye, because the story changes. So perhaps there you're going to meet important people that are interesting stories that in some way you want to tell. And so you set a rendezvous with another person, or you just interview a person on the street to be ready, also not in a very easy way. For the Christmas guy, I said, would you mind if I interview you? It's not that I mean, I met him by chance. So I just asked him to interview him right there when I met him. So you need to be flexible. At the same time, create a work plan that is fundamental, but then a work plan that is flexible, right? That can be changed based on the story you're telling. Remember the purpose, the goal is to tell a meaningful story for your audience. So also be open, but stay open to what you meet along the way. And it is the beauty, if I can share with you, but personally, of the work I do. Meaning, the work of being a documentarist is that you meet stories of different types. You meet people, very different people, and it's a surprise, constant surprise, endless surprise. And in fact, you have a great responsibility because they're telling you stories in your hands, and the way you're telling them will make these people being perceived, the country, the culture, in one way rather than another. I will tell you something. In Sierra Leone, I took a picture that I will not use, and also a video that I will not use of this reality, but that if I were to use this to tell the negative aspect of the place is the one that I would use. And the picture is the following. There's written Sierra Leone National Museum. There's the placard. And there is rubbish and a man who is sleeping. You don't see the face under, right there on the floor. Now, if I use that image such as that, that image is true. It's a true picture. I mean, I took the picture, but using the picture such as that in a documentary gives the perception of those who are going to watch the documentary that that is what Sierra Leone is all about. The Sierra Leone is just that. And it's very reductive. It's as if you go to Salerno, Naples, and you go in a neighborhood of Scampia where there's organized crime, violence, etc., and you take a picture to the rubbish in the middle of the street and say, this is Naples. The same thing. The stories that we receive are stories to tell in a responsible way, with responsibility, because whether you like it or not, as good communicators as we are, our stories do have an impact. And therefore, you need to, there's a responsibility in what you publish, what you show.
For social networks, reels are short. Can we apply storytelling to reels?
Of course, storytelling is not done based on the length, but it can be attached to any type of story. These rules are both for articles, for podcasts, and short videos, longer videos, movies, everything. Clearly, if the reel lasts 1 minute, it has to be all summarized in 1 minute. If it's an article, it's all concentrated in 4 or 5 paragraphs. If it is a podcast, it's summarized, let's say, in half an hour, 1 hour. It depends on the format of the podcast. The duration does not change the rules, these criteria, if you like, that we have just mentioned.
Second question, as for the narration,
Narrative
how
point
can
of
we
view,
shape
how to structure well
the beginning of
my
our
story.
story?
How
can we
make sure that
create
it
a
captures
story that can
or
capture
hooks
the attention of
reader
the
or
reader?
the watcher? In order to create a good hook, as he said, how to create a good hook, questions are 2. 1, who's my audience? Who's my audience? That's the first question. And what do I want to convey? Hi. And what do I want to convey to my audience? These are the 2 questions. Starting from this, we start from a real situation. There has to be something real, true. The hook should not be an idea, a concept of the message I want to convey. A real situation, a scene, life, something real. We want to see people. Visibly, we would have to start from a person, from something, a person in action. That leads you to connect to others, that can allow you to connect. And then I translate it into the language of the audience that I've chosen. So if I'm talking about adolescence, I'm going to choose an initial character that can connect with this audience of adolescents, if they're elderly, and so on. Last question from Zoom. I understand what you're asking. Yes, I understand what you're doing. You want to do a narrative documentary on the story, on the founder, yep, the founder. And so it's going to be a series of images, videos of historical archives while you tell the story of your founder. That's another language. It is not the documentary language. It can be the documentary language also by using historical sources, but you need to be very good in connecting it to today, because the history, if it stays in the history, historians are going to follow it. And I don't think you want to make this documentary just for historian, but you want to provide it to an audience, that you want our congregation be known, also from your sisters and brothers. Put yourselves in the shoes of your brother or sisters that are watching this documentary. Would you watch it, or it's just going to be something that you're going to see in the YouTube and he says, oh, the documentary of our founder? I mean, I'm being provocative, but I'm sure you're going to do a good job. But be mindful about this, to say that there are other techniques, other approaches. The interview in the documentary, for me, is essential. There are documentaries without interviews, very few, but there are characters. If they're interview to a concrete person, the founder becomes the character of that story, and you need to be very good in making he resurrect, meaning you have to put him high or like a cartoon or through pictures and a voiceover, talking as if he were talking, as if he were alive. And you're not talking about somebody who's dead, but something that is still present today, a person that is still present today. That founder has something to say, not to when your congregation was founded, but to today. And you need to choose who do you want to say it to. If he is talking to your congregation, you're going to be using some language. If you want to extend outside of your congregation, you need to understand the language of others. How do you prepare your interviews? Oh, nice question. Well, it is one of the nice things of the work I do. So I prepare them in the following way. I ask myself, who will I interview? I try to put myself in his or her shoes related to the message I want to communicate. This is the first thing. So if I'm about to interview a bishop, I'm going to put myself in the shoes of the bishop, how long he's been in the diocese, is he a local or he comes from outside? What does he has so dear to this person? And related to the story I want to tell, what he can tell me. And I write down 1, 2, 3 possible questions on this. Then I interview the student of our school, another age, another story. So I put myself in his shoes. What can he tell me related to the story? 1 or 2 questions, no more. You don't prepare the interview just writing all that you're going to be asking him or her. Just a couple of questions, elements for yourself that allow you to tell the story. I can tell you out of experience, it's been 4 or 5 documentaries that I've done, and I'm always surprised. The interview is the nicest thing, most beautiful thing. The moment of the interview is the most beautiful thing, because you're in front of a story that's been unveiled to you, told to you. And there's always something new that this person is telling you that you hadn't supposed. And this is what I like so much about the documentary rather than fiction, because fiction, you give the parts to the actors and they play the role. An important element of the documentary, you need to collect also the visual, emotional expression of that person when the person is talking about that experience. For example, the story of a former soldier child and the way he has been taken by the civilians, the way he was welcomed. You can have on his reactions. Also, you want to see him, how his life has changed. You can see them when he tells you that he's come to Italy. He could stay here, but he decided to go back because if he hadn't been for them, his life, he would not even be alive. So he wanted to give back to his people what he had received. It's really good stuff. And you want to see him when he's saying this. So you know something, and then you go there and you realize that's the story. You interview people thinking that they're going to say something, supposing, and then you say, wow, he didn't tell me that. What will I use of this interview? He didn't tell me anything. And sometimes you don't use, I mean, that interview that you expect it to be fundamental. At the end of the day, you say, no, it's not exactly the way the person is speaking or what it's saying. That's not important. I mean, who, what it, what is being documented is reality. This is another mistake, but you need to keep in mind another thing that never, if you have Netflix, you watch it, right? My professors used to say some documentaries on Netflix should eliminate the label of documentary because you see many things staged. Yeah, staged. For example, many things are staged. I say, go out of that door and close the door behind you, and then I'm going to film you. No. This, you will never see it in our documentary. Never. This is not how to document. This is staged. This is something staged. I'm there with my camera, always, constantly. I'm recording the life of my brothers, the life of the people of the place, and then I will choose elements that I need to tell the story. But if in that specific moment you don't open the door, you will not open it. It's not that I needed to tell the story and I tell you to open the door, because I want the reality, the truth. I want to represent the reality of that place, of that culture. And you can tell, you can see it in the documentaries. All that you have watched also before, there's no scene there in the documentary that has been prepackaged, that has been staged. And this, the spectator sees this, he can tell this, he can, and it's appreciated as well. This is a very important element. Authenticity of communication. Also, the same influencers talking about social media. The ones who are most appreciated are the ones who they put their face in things physically and also innerly. Mean they are the ones who are not afraid of showing themselves for what they are. The audience realizes if you're false. If you're false and you're telling something that is not true, I stop following that person. I stop following the person. And this is something unconscious we have. It's not something that we do and that we are aware of, but unconsciously we realize that that message is artificial, that it's not really how things have gone. And authenticity is an important criteria. Also, when we tell our witness, how many videos have I watched of witnesses? Oh, heroic, truly heroic. We have seen so many in the past. A story of seminarians, Xaverian students, perfect, almost perfect. Many left the order, by the way, but they were so perfect that they left. Because, and does not communicate. I always make this example. The missionary who spent 40 years in mission, he goes to talk to adolescents in the secondary schools of his life as a missionary with a language with adolescents look at him and say, what is he saying? Heroic endeavors, alone in the wilderness, without streets, in the middle of the wilderness, walked kilometers to celebrate Mass. The students say, they applaud him when he leave. I don't know, because they're happy you're leaving, but nothing will stick with them. Nothing will stay with them. First, because you haven't been true. Your story is not just that. You have focused on the things that, according to you, were important. You did not consider your audience. The youngsters who were 14 years old that you have left 40 years before when you are missionary were not the same ones you are meeting now 40 years later, the culture has changed, and of that witness, just heroic endeavors that are far from the everyday life of those who are listening to you. Zero communication. This is very important. If I don't start from the other, probably what I will communicate is going to just come back to me. This has not been conveyed. Is there some other questions? Yes, we still have time for another question.
What is the main difference between a story and a documentary?
Between a story
And a documentary?
story and documentary. Allora, la storia
Well, the story, the documentary is a type of story. If it's a type of storytelling, the documentary.
qualsiasi racconto
Any
è una storia.
narration is a story. A documentary is one of the different ways in which you can tell a story. Documentary. Before I gave you the example of the stage things preparing, that is not part of the language of the documentary. That is part of a fictitious language. I mean, I cannot shoot a movie or based on a true story. A movie is not a documentary. It is a movie with actors, with staged stuff, and that then implies that aspect. Each language has its features. The documentary is one of the different possible languages that can be used in telling a story, in storytelling. For example, remembering the online comment of those who were working on the documentary, on the story of the founder, another idea is instead of making a documentary, you can shoot a movie with actors. And so you represent the story of your founder to actors and you give them parts they play. It's not impossible. You will find a theater group that wants to do it. That something might come out of this. And it would be more interesting than just do a documentary without interviews. Staying on the documentary or the story of the congregation, the founders, it's important the interviews, but also perhaps tell the story of the founder. Can we put together the documentary and other genres to make this type of production? Yes, there are documentaries / movies based on true stories, and you watch them as such, meaning you start with a true story, so you have the real character, then some actors, possibly they resemble that character, and tell the story in a dramatized way. This tells the audience that what I'm watching has truly happened, but the person no longer exists. And so I see it because it's authentic, but at the same time, you have been true with me because you told me in the visual language that that is an actor. So I will follow the story. It's very effective, by the way. I don't know if you understand, meaning start, let's say, from the images of the true founder, then you go to the actors that interpret the founder and his life, and then you conclude going back to the true founder, pictures of the true founder. And you can also include places where the founder has visited or gone, and in the playing of the actors, some real stories lived by the founder, but clearly they are interpreted by the actors. I have a question myself. How is it possible? I live in Rome here, and the sisters come to visit and they come to the meetings. They're not accustomed to being in front of a camera. How can I make them more at ease in front of a camera, to make it come out more natural? And the second question is, how can I prepare the sisters? Let's say I have a list of questions, right? But then I would like to prepare the person who's being interviewed. Okay, for the first one, I personally use some stuff. Yeah, some devices. Yeah. Equipment that are very discreet. The documentary is done with a very small camera called DJI. It's of the style of GoPro. You go around, you have a small microphone, and when someone is in front of a camera, it doesn't even notice it as a camera. It's even freer in talking. Also, the cell phone, I don't know. Don't underestimate the cell phone. I don't want to sponsor, but there are some cell phones who the quality is similar to professional recording. So if you want to have to invest, it's less expensive investing in a cell phone, this specific cell phone, where just, it's more expensive, like lenses and the other equipment. And then you put it in front of the person is really scared because it's as if you're in front of a camera. So also to choose the right equipment, which is lighter, let's say, that can be helpful in putting the interviewed at ease. The second question, I like it very much because you always have to address this. And also with people who called you to do some stuff, they say, oh, we need to know the questions beforehand. Okay, so since we're doing this formation, let me be clear. It's important that you, in front of the camera, and also in an article you're writing, you have the straight reaction of the person. You don't want to have pre-packaged answers, because if not, you send them an email with all the questions, the person replies, and you write the article with the answers. The same thing. Then being there and interviewing the person, you want to have the emotional reaction also to the question itself. How did you feel when during the war you had to run away? If you send the question beforehand, the person prepares herself, and when she gives the answer, she's not going to have the same emotional reaction. You understand what I say? I say this strongly because it does happen often. It's as if you were not appreciating the person by giving the questions ahead of time. There's something else to say. People who have some titles or roles and people who have in some specific roles, for example, bishops. I don't know if you're working on the story of professors, politicians, etc. But these people, you don't give the questions ahead of time. You should never give the questions ahead of time, but you can tell them about the themes, the topics, saying, okay, I'm not going to send you the questions, but we'll be talking about, let's say, this topic. If this, as in your work, this person does not want to talk to you because you won't give them the questions, that's the last thing. You just give to them 2 questions. That's maximum 3 questions. When you're going to go there, you are going to ask 6 questions, and you start from the questions you have not given. Yeah? Because it's important to have that reaction, right? The quick reaction, the unprepared reaction. You want to see this, right? And then I don't know whether I answered your question. Yes, yes, for the first one. Yes, if the material is important, yes, but I don't have the equipment. Yes, I have my equipment already. I mean, it's not like just going around with a cell phone. Yeah. Yeah, the person stays like
Nervous.
nervo.
Anche col cellulare? Fai una camomilla prima di...
Well, you're not you need to have a chamomile drink. I'll allow them to bring a chamomile, not even in front of a cell phone. Okay, and of course there's a person like the brother that I told you who had the sore throat for 3 weeks in a row. Then he provided a great interview. You need to insist a little bit. Sometimes you need to insist. You should not give up when a person says, "Oh no," and you know instead that the person has a wonderful story to tell. You're doing it also for the person yourself. You know that that story can give a greater impact to what you're going to be telling. So, convey the value of what the story is. And this also relaxes the interviewed person to saying, I'm doing something for my congregation, I'm doing something that I believe in. I am telling something that it's very valuable for me. And even if I make this effort, this further effort, also motivate them. Yes, why not? Can help them. Because if someone is embarrassed in front of a cell phone, which is not it's an object, it's not an intrusive object. We're all accustomed to be in front of a cell phone. I mean, it's going to be difficult. A question online. How to choose the soundtrack to accompany the story. We didn't talk about this. Yes, the music. We involve the senses, also the hearing. And music is important. Yes, music in a video, the soundtrack it gives a tone. It sets the tone of the video. The same story, it's also to do this exercise in the same story you do with a video. Try different soundtracks and see how it changes. Also, the message changes because if I put a sad music behind the nun who's talking to me about unity and harmony, the sad message is being conveyed, not the words she has mentioned. I mean, if I put a joyful music, oh, perhaps you've seen this. There's a series, Fallout. It's science fiction, where at the end, there is a community that survives underground and that comes out, and there are monsters around. I mean, this movie, because I'm mentioning, because it puts a joyful music soundtrack. Each time there's a scene where they kill one another, they shoot at one another, and it's a choice, an interesting choice, according to me, to it's an irony to give an ironize to downplay some scenes, some terrible scenes. The same scenes done with a horror music, the soundtrack would attract less audience. They've done it to address a broader audience. So some who do not follow these types of series, but those who watch comedies potentially might be watching this series. This has been a market choice, but it is how it can have an impact. What music do I choose? What message you want to convey based on this? You will use the more serious, more joyful. In the documentaries, it would be nice to have music of the place, the soundtrack, local. In Taiwan, it's all Chinese. If you see that African, Moroccan music, we have each place where you go. Then it's also based on the story that you are conveying. There was somebody with the hands raised.
Yes, thank you about that. With regards to music, so when I would speak to many religious in India, and when they were interested in video editing and adding music, so one question would come up most of the times. First thing is, how can we find a music, I mean a background track without copyright?
Okay.
That is one.
Sì.
Like, where do I find or where do I choose such background music from, like the track, to avoid copyright, use it ethically? And would you suggest some sites or the ones that you use for your documentary?
Sure.
And I guess, yeah, that is one question.
Sure. Very nice. Okay, my congregation,
Look, my congregation has chosen to invest in this project. So we use some websites, stock, they're called stock, not that of stock market, but stock images, image stock. We use the payment, payment subscription. It's called Envato Elements. And there you can find background music, videos. Some videos you watched in the presentation, I've taken them from there. Once you pay for the yearly subscription, you can use the license for all the videos you use. And also, when you stop paying, this is valid. You can use it lots of material, and that's great for those who doesn't have that much money. But we're not talking about incredible amounts. I'm talking about like 100 euros a year, every year. If you want to invest on this 100 euros, I would make the investment. For those who want to do things on their own or doesn't have funds at all, for this there is. I've used it until I'm choosing this other one. It's called File Music Archive. File Music Archive. Let me see if I can see it, so I can find it so I can show it to you. File Music Archive.
Vediamo file. No. Music.
Let's see.
Vediamo perché l'hanno
Mhm.
rinominato
I
ultimamente.
think they have renamed it recently.
Free Music Archive.
Okay, Free Music Archives. There it is,
Questo qui
right here.
praticamente avete i
You
vari
have,
generi
based on the genres,
caricare.
you can download,
Sono tutti
and these are
senza copyright.
without copyright. In English, it's called their public domain.
Le foto per i video.
As for the pictures and video, we have other two free websites, Pixabay, Pixels, and both for videos and pictures. There's also Liberstock,
Un altro sito.
which is another website.
Musica
But for music,
solo per la musica.
this is just for music, and you have
Molto belle.
very beautiful things here.
Ho fatto un podcast grazie
I made a podcast a couple of years ago thanks to this
che mi dà.
background music.
Quello che ho notato la differenza
What I noticed, the difference is
veramente ti dà
Elements,
tu metti
the other one, that I pay. If you put music, traditional music from Taiwan, for example, if it might make the search, it gives you provides that, or if you search for
invece ti dà cose
here instead, it gives you more generic material.
il motore di ricerca è diverso.
Also, the search engine is different. The other thing regarding copyright,
Non fatelo per i documentari, però
don't do this for documentary, but for other productions you can. AI. Use AI.
esistono dei siti
There are some websites where you can generate some songs, music
completamente da zero con
completely from scratch
artificiale.
using AI, artificial intelligence.
Per il documentario sarebbe
For the documentary, it would be even better
documentario
if when you're doing the documentary,
sa che
there's mass sung in some specific way, and you can use that soundtrack. Also, in your documentary, this is something that express even more authenticity, but there are the technical you have to record it well, technically record it well. Sometimes it's not sufficient to have the camera, then you need to have other elements.
Thank you for that answer. So this is what usually I would respond and I would share. And the next question that I would get after sharing this was the importance, the importance of investing in this. Like there is that mentality at times that, oh no, we want to do it at a less cost. Oh no. So how do you respond to them? How do you express that it is important to invest in something valuable? Like how do you respond to that mentality?
Of course. Tocchiamo un tasto dolente.
A bit difficult. Money. We talk about a difficult topic, money. Whether you like it or not, also in religious world, we choose based on expenses. But we need to think about something. How much money do we invest without thinking, without a project in mind, just simply to give solutions to problems? A lot of money for the elderly, for our communities, for the house that has to be closed because it's too big. We have a lot of expenses that are done. We're talking about thousands and thousands of euros, but then it's difficult instead to invest, let's say, 100 euros or a couple of 100 euros in tools that allow you to live your mission, to be known to others, to propose the message. So it's a change of mentality, it's a mind shift. It's occurring in the new generations, luckily, and I remember my generation considered the digital something different. If you have to pay an online service, you look the piracy version, right? But you could go to the movies and watch the movie and spend the money on watching a movie, right? But if it was digital, no, you had to download it. But you paid the money for the ticket of the movies. The virtual is real. I mean, this is another formation that we provide. Virtual is real. I mean, it has an impact, a true impact on the life of people. Therefore, either I believe it, they tell me to put me in the middle of the room, either you believe it, and thus I invest in it, or if not, you can invent all the reasons rationales to your superiors, and instead we will lose the money simply to solve some other problems, but not because we believe in a project. But this is not true just for this. I think, for example, youth ministry, think how much money is spent to allow me to say this. I'm not going to want to criticize the elderly, but to take care of our elderly, and I love our elderly of our congregation, is that much money we spend in youth ministry. This means that invest in the future, means to invest in a community which is fruitful and provides children. We need to, of course, take care of the elderly, but also we must take care of the newcomers. I'm talking about among religious, so I can say this, I'm using this language. Therefore, if we want to invest in the future, we have to invent also economically in this. I think, and I bring that of my congregation, it's been very visionary. I give you the personal example. It's simply send me to study in the United States, Boston, a master. You know, it's very expensive, and they invested. It is an investment that a congregation is doing, not only with myself. The brother who works with me in the editing, he studied in Paris. There is a project, we believe, I invest in it. I find the right people to do this, that they believe in this, and we do it. I don't know. Are we okay with the timeline?
Ci siamo?
Yes. I have a comment. On Zoom.
Sì, se il prodotto finale sarà su YouTube,
Well, if the final product is going to be in YouTube, at the end, you can use YouTube Studio that provides some products where you don't have to pay for before. On YouTube, when you put a piece of music protected by copyright, it was muted. The audio was muted. Now it no longer does it. It tells you
licensed for YouTube.
licensed by YouTube. So it's YouTube that gives you the right to publicize this, but it cannot come out of YouTube. If it has to stay in the YouTube, this has to stay within the platform of YouTube. And the same is true when you publish a reel and you use the predefined music. They're the ones who are paying for the copyrights. You're not paying it because then your views make you to gain money, right? I think that if there are no further questions, then again, in the afternoon, it's going to be hands-on. It's going to be a workshop and also online. So both here, but also online. Yes, in the afternoon, they're telling me you will not have translation, but I will try to explain in Italian, Spanish, and English, which are the languages that I speak. Then with the help of Alessandra, we will give the information, especially in French. And I will tell you, I don't want to spoil anything about the afternoon, but this afternoon it's going to be hands-on. So now,
Well, for those online at 2:20, connect at 2:20. We will begin at 2:30. And ognuno per sé e ci incontriamo. E sì, non c'è traduzione.
Benissimo. Grazie a tutti.
great, thank you. Have a nice lunch to all of you. Bye-bye.
People from all over the Mediterranean gather together to live on a boat for more than 20 days, almost a month. And we did everything on the boat, basically from cooking to cleaning, praying. I celebrated Mass with Muslim people. We prayed the Muslim way. It was very, very powerful. So now we are going to show just this 5-minute video. In French.
Alors Pietro, cet été, a vécu une expérience sur ce voilier. En fait, c'était un voilier qui a fait 8 étapes sur le bassin méditerranéen avec 20 jeunes, 20 jeunes, 30 jeunes environ. Et l'idée, c'était de partager. Ils étaient autant musulmans que chrétiens que sans foi. Et l'idée, c'était de partager ensemble, et ça a été une expérience absolument incroyable. Pietro a pu célébrer la messe et, avec des musulmans, enfin voilà, très, très beau.
Très bien. Merci beaucoup. Allora, andiamo. Pronti? E questo lo vediamo con i sottotitoli in italiano. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great.
You feeling great?
Yes, I am.
You ready for this adventure?
Yes, I am. 100% 100%.
My takeaway would definitely be the love and the care that I took from all these people, that I feel from all these people being together. We definitely need love and care with anyone that we meet. Sure, we might be strangers, but it's nice to have this sense of community. So I definitely want to share this, I don't know, this sweet feeling in my heart.
بالنسبة لي كانت الحقيقة تجربة رائعة جدا، تجربة جميلة جدا مع مختلف الحضارات، مع مختلف الأشخاص، مع مختلف الديانات، مسيحيين، مسلمين. Really it's for me something special.
I'm very grateful for the many conversations I had over here, but there were some very, very sincere moments with people of very different backgrounds which truly filled my heart.
In ogni giorno io sono riuscita a trovare una persona che mi ha dato qualcosa, che ha pregato con me, per me, che mi ha consolata, che mi ha fatto ridere, quindi non mi sono mai sentita da sola in questa esperienza.
Da questa esperienza mi porto a casa alcuni sguardi affamati di fede che ho avuto l'onore e il piacere di incontrare durante 2 settimane di vita condivisa, nella quale ho avuto l'occasione di approfondire la mia fede e lo sguardo cristiano sulla mia fede. E in quello sguardo ho trovato la rarità di anime che ancora provano il desiderio del divino.
وكمان شيء ثاني أثر فيه قديش إنه في تضامن من ناس مختلفة على قضية فلسطين، هذا شيء كتير أثر فيه وبورجيني قديش نحن مهم كناس إنه نوقف مع بعض وندعم بعض في هاي القضايا. كمان شيء ثاني حبيته اللي هو قديش نحن كنا منفتحين على بعض. بالنسبة إلي أكتر شيء بتذكره لما نحن سوينا زي صلاة في الليل، كنا مع بعض كلنا نصلي وكانت القمر كان يضوي في السماء وصوت البحر، كنت على سفينة ونصلي كلنا مع بعض لله، فكان إشي كتير حلو إنه نسمع. أنا ما عمري كنت يعني في جزء من هاي الصلاة، فكان هذا إشي كتير حلو. ويعني بالنسبة لي هاي الذكريات رح دائما أحملها فيا، وبتمنى لما أرجع فلسطين نقدر نسوي إشي مشترك، صلاة مشتركة مع بعض، لأنه ما بحس هذا الإشي عندنا موجود.
Pues lo que me llevo es haber conocido a gente súper interesante con la que de primeras puede parecer que tenemos muchas diferencias porque venimos de diferentes países, diferentes culturas, creemos en diferentes religiones, pero la base es muy parecida. Lo que me llevo es ese conocimiento, esa cercanía, unas conversaciones increíbles, sentirme súper cómoda con ellos y a pesar de las diferencias culturales, sentir que somos mucho más parecidos de lo que pensaba.
Et du coup, je pense que là où mon cœur était principalement basé en France, là, il s'est déplacé et il se trouve un peu plus au milieu de la Méditerranée ou un peu dans chacun des pays qui étaient représentés sur ce bateau. Et donc, je repars avec, je pense, le souvenir de chacune des personnes présentes sur le bateau, de leur histoire, de leur sourire, de leur personnalité. Et voilà, je pense que je ne verrai plus jamais le monde et en tout cas le pourtour méditerranéen de la même manière.
وهذا ما ينجم إلا إنه يوسع لك مداركك، ما ينجم يخليك إلا تكون منفتح أكثر على الآخر وعلى التقبل. كان يجمعنا موضوع الأديان، وباختلاف الأديان وباختلاف الثقافات وباختلافاتنا الأيديولوجية، في النهاية نجموا نعيشوا بسلام ونجموا نوصلوا رسالة لجميع الشباب طبعا لدول الحوض البحر الأبيض المتوسط.
Prova, sì. Ecco, questo era un piccolo spezzone, no, di questa esperienza. Ancora col linguaggio visuale.
Buongiorno.
Ristrutturiamo la facciata. È il bonus PAO.
Ah! È la pubblicità delle gocciole, se volete. Ecco qua. Benissimo. Via le gocciole, ciao. Allora, bene. No, come dicevo, al linguaggio visuale, visivo, questo ovviamente è stato un progetto non programmato, non progettato, cioè semplicemente l'ho fatto per il piacere di farlo alla fine di questa esperienza e restituire qualcosa agli organizzatori, no? Anche per pubblicizzarla, eccetera. Però ovviamente lo stile è quello, cioè ho raccolto le testimonianze di chi ha partecipato e ho fatto raccontare l'esperienza attraverso i loro occhi, attraverso la loro esperienza. E l'idea è quella che ciascuno la raccontasse nella propria lingua madre. Questo vale anche per quando si fanno i documentari, è sempre bene che la persona parli la lingua in cui si esprime meglio, anche per dare la propria testimonianza, perché può parlare anche un ottimo inglese, un ottimo spagnolo, ma magari è un'altra lingua. Alcuni concetti, soprattutto la parte emotiva, veniva prima anche in una domanda che è stata fatta, tu lo esprimi nella lingua in cui mangi, praticamente, no? Nella lingua in cui tu sei cresciuto, sei cresciuta. Bene, allora, questo era solo per aspettare anche gli altri che si unissero a noi. Adesso passiamo alla fase pratica. Stamattina abbiamo fatto un po' di teoria, adesso mettiamo le mani in pasta. Faremo un workshop di storytelling, ok? Diviso in due fasi. Una fase è personale, ora vi spiegherò, un'altra fase la faremo a coppie. E poi ci sarà una restituzione qua in presenza. Sento un po' d'eco tecnici, non so se si può ridurre questo. Allora, la prima fase, pensate a un'esperienza concreta, quindi niente di inventato, niente di ideologico, partiamo dalla realtà, ok? We start from reality and take a real experience of your life, ok? Get Yes, how can I do it?
Each person has to choose, put subtitles and then say the spoken language is Italian.
Should I say it? Quindi io parlo solo in italiano e loro mettono. Allora, a casa, chi ci segue da casa, potete mettere i sottotitoli? Secondo me è molto più facile perché questo serve solo per le istruzioni. Quindi magari io do le istruzioni brevemente anche in inglese, anche per chi è qua, in spagnolo, eccetera. E poi magari tu mi aiuti col francese. E poi è lavoro personale, quindi è più facile, senza fare tanti giri. Allora, prima lo dico in italiano, facciamo così. Allora, pensa a un'esperienza reale, qualcosa di concreto che realmente è successo o che hai visto succedere, un evento vero, reale. Può essere a te o anche a qualcun altro che sia capitata questa esperienza, ok? E poi riprendiamo gli elementi di questa mattina. Individua chi è il personaggio al centro di questa storia. Ok. Descrivilo. Mostrami, non dirmi, no? Quindi descrivimi questo personaggio, anche se sei tu. Descrivimi chi è. Conflitto. Qual è il problema che si verifica in questa storia? La fatica, la ferita, il punto di cambiamento di questa storia. Il percorso, cosa cambia, cosa mette in moto questo evento che capita, questo conflitto, come si evolve la storia. E il messaggio, cosa dice questa storia sulla vita, sulla fede, sulla missione. Ok, deve essere un episodio significativo, non qualcosa di generico. Deve essere qualcosa che ha cambiato significativamente o voi o altri. Questo in una prima fase. Un'altra fase, una volta aver riletto tutto questo, io vi ho dato le domande, secondo me è un aiuto scrivere, però gestitele voi come preferite. Alla fine riducete tutta la storia a 30 secondi. E come? Si fa così. Una sola scena, Quindi non tutta la storia, ma una sola scena, una sola emozione dominante e un episodio, una frase finale che resta. Ok, poi dopo vi do questo, non vi preoccupate. Questa è la prima fase. Adesso ci diamo 20 minuti per fare questo. Sul foglio sarebbero punti 1, 2, 3. Sì, downstairs, below. You can put closed caption. And you can select the language. So now we are speaking in English, so put English to Italian or Spanish or whatever is your language. Indonesian, I don't know, Limba. If you click on subtitle tab, you can find more languages for the translation.
Yeah. Du coup, en français, vous cliquez sur CC. Vous les activez et ensuite vous choisissez la langue d'origine. Donc là, c'est anglais et ensuite vous mettez français. Et du coup, vous pourrez avoir les sous-titres directement. On n'aura pas besoin de traduire parce qu'on ne pourra pas le faire pour tous, s'il vous plaît.
Sì, per l'italiano. Adesso parlerò in italiano, giusto per dare un feedback su questa storia. Sì, dovete selezionare per ogni lingua che viene parlato. Every language you need to change. Ok, cool. Allora, un feedback su questa storia, bellissima. Allora, innanzitutto è piena di emozioni. È piena di sentimenti, proprio quello che ci siamo detti. E se voi ci fate caso, quando lei parla, non è che ti identifichi con questa storia, magari non è che tu hai vissuto la stessa storia della macchina fotografica o di un amico a cui hai dato una cosa. Può anche essere, ancora meglio, sarai ancora più preso da questa storia perché ti è successo la stessa cosa, ma quel senso di dare fiducia all'altro, oppure sentire di aver rovinato qualcosa di prezioso che ti era stato dato, il silenzio non compreso di una relazione perché non mi parla più, che poi in realtà era un gesto per dire guarda, io non volevo perderti, l'incomprensione che è nata, il dare motivazioni per quello che è successo, quindi dire no, ma tu sei più importante di me, di quell'oggetto, no? La relazione è più importante. Sono esperienze umane che tutti facciamo. Quindi vedete la ricchezza, no? Nella storia di questi elementi, te la fa seguire e alla fine ti trasmette qualcosa perché ti rimanda alla tua vita. Quindi thank you so much. I said good things, no worries. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, your time.
So I don't know if I remember everything. I grew up in India. I was born in a family traditional Catholic, and I felt so. But at a certain time, I wanted to meet the requirements, let's say, that my parents had against to me. And so I felt accepted only when I get good notes in the school. So I tried to do the best to study, even though I was not really interested sometimes in the matter. But I felt that when I study, then receive the good notes, then I will be accepted and right in my family. But then it was so on several years. But then when I was 17 years old, I started to feel that my life is without sense, that is without meaning. So I even was very close to broke out, to enter in depression also. And then I understand that I won't continue this life, so only that's external for the other people that not even know me well. So, but I met once the people. It was the charismatic group, and they invited me to live with them a retreat. it was the 10 days when I felt accepted, and I starting to also feel that God loves me, and then he is close with me, and he helps me to develop also my personality. And this was the decisive moment in my life. Then I decided to engage even more with this movement, and I was given the opportunity also to study, to get some new skills, also to travel. I came to Rome also. But even though the experience was so nice, so precious, I continued to feel that my life is not for me, that so sometimes external for the others. Even I was doing my ministry, I was doing it because of the people, because I should to do it. But still, again, it was that moment that I started to realize again that I needed something deeper in my life. So go closer with a relation with the Lord, and then feel that I'm really important for Him, not because what I'm doing, but because what I am. And then it was the second time there was the COVID time also, and then I came to Rome and started to live with community, Live People community, and then slowly again I was searching and was also invited by God to really get deeper in this relation, to open the heart, to try to understand and accept His presence, also His love, and also that I really can live my life, fully my life, when I with union and with relationships relationship with Him. And I feel that when this moment, this time is important for me, in my personal growing, and also in my finding the way, what really I am in this life, in my vocation.
Thank you. So, una cosa che notiamo, in italiano parlo, una cosa che notiamo nel racconto è che, secondo me, Gregory ha voluto raccontare tutta la storia, cioè o meglio, tutto quello che loro si sono condivisi lì, lui l'ha voluto mettere insieme. Questo succede anche quando tu fai un video, quello che vi dicevo prima, quando tu filmi, intervisti le persone, no? E hai un sacco di materiale. Ora, se non organizzi questo materiale dicendo cosa mi serve per raccontare questa storia, ed è ovvio che tu devi togliere qualche dettaglio e preferirne altri per poter raccontare questo in modo efficace. Siamo proprio là. Per questo è importante, cioè, quando tu hai iniziato a parlare e hai detto vediamo cosa mi ricordo, no? Vuol dire che non hai pensato a questo momento, cioè nel momento in cui tu pensi io devo raccontarla agli altri, anche quell'ascolto che tu hai fatto non è in funzione, non so, per conoscervi o per prendere qualcosa tuo, no, e portarti a casa, ma per riraccontare quella storia che lei ti ha regalato a un altro uditorio. Quello che ci siamo detti prima di partire dall'audience vuol dire questo, cioè io parto tutto, anche filmare, anche ascoltare, anche intervistare, lo faccio con l'ottica di chi andrò a raccontare dopo, perciò si parte dall'audience. Io ascolto perché dopo dovrò raccontare. Per esempio, non so, immagino, è come per un prete, no? Quando fa l'omelia. Una cosa è farti il tuo momento di preghiera personale, con la parola di Dio che ti stimoli, ti aiuti, eccetera, eccetera. Un'altra cosa è preparare un'omelia per la tua comunità. Sono due cose diverse. A volte i preti invece confondono una cosa con l'altra e ti fanno queste omelie dove non sai che cosa, da dove iniziano e dove finiscono, perché sono quello che quella parola gli ha detto a lui, ma non quello che dovrebbe, cioè, che vuoi comunicare alla comunità, il messaggio. Oh, grazie. Non so, con le traduzioni è impossibile fare tutto, però grazie, thank you so much for the English group, ma i sottotitoli dovrebbero funzionare. E a casa, ci state capendo qualcosa con questo mix? Abbiamo risolto Babele? No. Vediamo. Sì, che bello, che belle queste facce che mi dicono sì. Bello, bello. Allora la tecnologia funziona. Ok, andiamo a un gruppo spagnolo? Che ne dite? Spagnolo? A chi? Sì, che dicen? O qualcuno spagnolo di qua? A casa? Sì, c'è un dito alzato. Di chi? Vediamo, diamo voce a casa allora. Diamo prima. Chi mi sta dicendo sì? Florence spagnolo? Ah, Florence. Florence, unmute yourself. Ah, tiene que hacerlo de acá, ¿verdad? Ah, adesso sì, adesso sì.
Ah, ya activo el micrófono. Qué bien. Estaba
Qué
sin
bien.
activar el micrófono.
Florence, pero tu nombre es francés.
No, mi nombre es Nancy.
Ah, ¿te equivocaste de Zoom o qué? ¿Qué pasó?
Mi nombre es Nancy. Lo que pasa es que este computador es de la comunidad y tiene el nombre
Es de
de
la
mi
hermana.
superiora que se llama Florence.
Es de Florence, ok, ok. Muy bien, entonces Nancy, mucho gusto. ¿Con quién estabas en el grupo?
Paula Cárdenas, que nos sacaron.
Ah, Paula, sí, que lo sacaron y pidió más tiempo.
Entonces al final voy a decir cualquier cosa.
Vamos a ver cómo se acaba esta historia. Vamos a ver. Entonces, Nancy empieza y en segundo lugar, Paula, ¿vale?
Paula no supo nada de mí.
¿Cómo?
Paula no supo nada de mí.
Ah, no alcanzó. Ok, entonces solo Nancy y luego damos la voz aquí al grupo español.
¿No me escuchan bien? ¿O sí escuchan
Te
bien?
oímos muy bien, muy bien.
Perfecto.
Vale, cuando quieras.
Desde pequeña yo viví en una familia católica, realmente fabulosa. 15 años, a los 15 años yo tuve la experiencia de trabajar con niños con cáncer. Fue una experiencia maravillosa, pero a la vez una experiencia dura, ya que me alejó de Dios, ya que veía que en el sufrimiento de los demás veía que Dios no estaba presente. Cuestionaba mi existencia, cuestionaba la existencia de Dios, cuestionaba todo. A mis 24 años, yo me vinculé a pues la fundación, era una amiga, la dueña de la fundación de los niños con cáncer. Ella, eh, yo tenía muchas dudas. Yo quise partir para Italia. En Italia fue creo que mi quiebre espiritual, ahí en ese espacio en el cual yo sentí que Dios me hizo una invitación especial. Tuve una experiencia, digamos, como mística, como muchos de ustedes seguramente lo han tenido. La experiencia, la amiga vino a Asís y vino a Italia, fuimos a Asís. Cuando yo comulgué, yo sentí la presencia de Dios y en ese momento las lágrimas rodaron por mis mejillas. Yo no era capaz de sostener como mi cordura, sino que sentí que cada vez Dios me estaba invitando a algo especial. Sentí como también el hecho de que llevaba mucho tiempo sin encontrarme con Dios. Hubo una experiencia dura también para mí a nivel humano. Mi novio, que tenía 8 años de relación, él cortó conmigo o cortamos en ese momento Y yo había tenido la ilusión de formar una familia, de casarme, tener formado un hogar, y esta fue una experiencia algo dura, pero en este espacio de reflexión Dios me presentó algo maravilloso y el 8 de mayo yo me vinculé a la comunidad católica. Esta comunidad católica de Shalom me ha dado todo como para que yo reinicie mi vida espiritual y con un nuevo novio en mi vida. Así que gracias Dios que me ha permitido vivir experiencias dolorosas y a la vez con ese dolor he recibido las mayores gracias y bendiciones de Él. Punto.
Wow, muchas gracias. Bueno, me parece que la historia se terminó muy bien. ¿Verdad? Sí. Paula.
Paula, ¿qué tal?
¿Qué tal?
Excelente,
¿Confirma?
excelente. Esa es la historia de
Excelente.
Paula. Sí.
Sí. Pero la historia la terminó ella o tú le dijiste esto, ¿o qué?
No, sí, sí.
Sí.
La verdad, faltó el final, pero sí, sí, sí.
Ah, ok, vale, vale. Muchas gracias. Y vamos a ver la manera di contare la storia. Allora, la storia che ha raccontato ha avuto molti elementi, no? Per esempio, l'elemento, non so, che, beh, ovviamente la lingua qua in sala, per chi non parla spagnolo è un po' difficile, forse, però sicuramente un'immagine che ci portiamo è questa della comunione, no? Quando lei va a fare la comunione e gli scendono le lacrime, è un'immagine molto eloquente, no? E come vedete, cioè, lei non ha detto io ho avuto un'esperienza mistica e mi sono convertita. Se avesse detto questo, grazie. Cioè, non ci comunica molto. Lei ha descritto la scena. Sono andata ad Assisi, ho preso la comunione, ho iniziato a lacrimare. Capite? Questo mostrare anziché dire le cose, è qui che passa la comunicazione. Infatti, grazie. Ha anche una bellissima storia. Poi vedo dietro questo bellissimo poster di Francesca Cabrini, che facciamo un po' di pubblicità perché è un bellissimo film. Non so se voi l'avete visto, ma è passato un po'. Bravissima, spettacolare questo
Che ha
film.
detto Giulia? Non sento.
Bellissima produzione. È pubblicizzata poco, purtroppo, ma ne è valsa la pena. Io l'ho vista al cinema quando è uscito. È veramente altissima qualità. Bello, bello, bello. È che purtroppo per portare il nostro linguaggio religioso in un ambito così dobbiamo fare doppio, triplo, quarto sforzo, perché una storia del genere, lo so, mi muovo, ma mi piace, vedi, è la mia ginnastica, Teresa, io non ci riesco. E dobbiamo fare 3-4 sforzi. Che mi fate? Dalla regia mi fanno questi simboli? 5 minuti vuol dire? Beh, è passato così tanto tempo? Niente, allora dobbiamo dare la parola all'ultima storia. No, 5 minuti, no, non ce la facciamo neanche per l'ultima storia. Allora, bene, vi abbiamo tenuto così sulle spine che vi chiamavamo in qualsiasi momento, però questo esercizio è molto importante, secondo me, perché innanzitutto spinge l'altro ad ascoltare con un ascolto attivo. 2, ti fa mettere con i piedi al posto degli altri e ti fa capire cosa è importante per l'altro, quindi usare l'empatia, quello che ci siamo detti all'inizio. E poi non basta, perché posso essere una persona molto empatica, cioè entrare nella tua storia, ma non un buon comunicatore. La persona empatica si è, ok? Tutti abbiamo questa capacità. Chi non ce l'ha ha qualche psicopatologia. Questo è un altro discorso, ok? Ma tutti gli esseri umani siamo capaci di empatia, ok? Essere comunicatori, questo si impara, ok? Quindi non è una capacità innata. E questo si impara, e si impara anche facendo. Quello che ci siamo detti oggi vuole essere uno stimolo. Vuole essere uno stimolo a non avere paura, a iniziare a raccontare storie con un certo criterio. Non avere paura a informare le vostre congregazioni, a animarle in questo senso, a fargli credere che investire risorse, come dicevamo prima, tempo, energie, personale per la comunicazione vuol dire garantire il futuro delle nostre congregazioni. La comunicazione non è un elemento marginale perché il mio carisma, io non sono un Paolino, quindi non devo comunicare. Cioè non è che il tuo carisma è la comunicazione e quindi ti occupi di quello oppure no. La Chiesa da sempre ha fatto questo. La Chiesa dalle sue origini ha comunicato, ha proclamato, ha annunciato la buona notizia. Quello che cambia è il mezzo, è il come si fa oggi, eccetera, eccetera. Ma questa sta alla base del nostro stesso essere Chiesa. Se noi smettiamo di comunicare, smettiamo di essere Chiesa. Se noi smettiamo di comunicare questa buona notizia, diventa un che bello, no? Paola, se questa bella esperienza te la tieni solo per te, non produce più niente, produce solo un bel ricordo. E il Vangelo non è un bel ricordo, il Vangelo è una buona notizia che può trasformare la vita di tutti, di tutti. E bisogna farlo sempre più anche in una maniera professionale. Grazie.
Vengo là. Grazie mille. Voy a hablar en español. Muchas gracias por este día, por todo lo que nos has pasado. Ahora es solo hacer videos y queremos verlos. Por favor, envían. Algunas cosas. Entonces, primero, gracias a vosotros por haber venido a este día. Estamos muy contentos de poder compartir con vosotros pues esta formación. Vamos a tener otras formaciones. El objetivo es que MMI, Multimedia Internacional, organiza una vez por mes una formación. El próximo es el 27 de febrero por la tarde solo. Y va a ser sobre las redes sociales, solo online, no es posible aquí, no es posible, solo online, punto. Las redes sociales y la promoción vocacional. Muy bien, entonces os esperamos todos, y por favor compartan con las congregaciones amigas y también no os olvidéis de hacer parte de MMI porque es solo todos juntos que podemos hacer cosas. Y si tenéis otras ideas de formaciones, por favor díganos. Vamos a comunicaros la grabación del día y también los documentos que Pietro ha compartido con nosotros. Y ahora a vuestros vídeos para dar voce al Señor, por favor. Esto es una mixtura de español y de italiano. ¿Habéis entendido? Perfecto. En el Zoom, sí, muy bien. Mi español es muy bueno. Perfecto. Muchas gracias y nos encontramos entonces el 27 de febrero con mucha alegría. Gracias, Pietro.
Gracias. Muchas gracias.